What is this junk? Honestly, I didn't expect anything better from your family, my mother-in-law shouted and threw my parents' gift onto the floor right in the middle of her birthday party. The guests laughed, but I just looked at the most important guest there, my husband's boss, who suddenly stopped smiling and slowly stood up from the table. Before we continue, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're listening from. Your support means the world to me. Now, let's get back to the story. Lena slowly ran her fingers along the cracked leather cover of an old book. The smell of dust, glue, and time was her own kind of medicine. In their small rented apartment on the edge of Yekaterinburg, filled with restoration tools, that scent was the only thing that reminded her of her own world, a world that was fading more and more under the pressure of her husband, Stas. Still with your dusty papers? Stas's voice came from behind, making Lena jump. He walked over, hugged her shoulders, and kissed the top of her head. He smelled of expensive cologne and tiredness. I thought we were going to talk about Mom's birthday today, he said. We already talked about it yesterday and the day before, Lena replied with a gentle smile, putting the book aside. Is there something new? Mom called again, Stas sighed, heading into the kitchen and opening the fridge. She asked if we've decided on the gift yet. She said Aunt Vera from Timen is giving her a mink cape and her cousin is getting her a new iPhone. Lena felt her chest tighten a little. 55 was a big milestone, and her mother-in-law, Tamara Pavlovna, was planning to celebrate like royalty. The Versailles restaurant in the city center, a guest list of 150 people, live music, and a strict dress code. Lena, the daughter of a history teacher and a librarian, always felt out of place at events like these, like she had stepped into a movie about the rich and famous. I thought we'd already decided, she said carefully, following her husband. We'd give her a big, beautiful china set. You said yourself she loves those things. I did, Stas nodded, pulling a carton of milk from the fridge. But today she hinted that she already got china sets at her last birthday. And she said the gift should be, he paused, searching for the word, status. Status. That was Tamara Pavlovna's favorite word. A status car. Status friends. Status vacations. Ever since Lena and Stas got married 3 years ago, she kept hearing that word, status. To her mother-in-law, Lena was a non-status wife. The daughter of simple, educated parents, a book restorer with a tiny salary, definitely not the kind of match she had imagined for her only beloved son. Stas, we have a mortgage, Lena reminded him softly. We count every penny. Where are we supposed to find money for a status gift? I know, he muttered, looking away. But, Lena, all the top managers from Horizon will be at the party. Even Andrei Viktorovich himself. You understand how important this is for me. I'm leading this new project right now, and if everything goes well, they might promote me to department head. For Stas, Andrei Viktorovich, the company's CEO, was almost like a god. Smart, tough, incredibly successful. Stas admired him, feared him, and wanted more than anything to impress him. Lena understood. She loved her husband and wanted him to succeed, but sometimes the price of that success felt far too high. All right, she sighed. Let's think. Maybe some jewelry, small, but elegant. Yes, Stas brightened, as if she had just solved a huge problem. Gold earrings, maybe. Mom loves gold. He hugged her, and for a moment, she felt relief. The conflict was avoided, for now. But as he left, he tossed out one more line that made her chest tighten again. And Lena, about your dress. Mom asked if you wouldn't wear that gray one. It's nice, but too simple. Maybe we should buy you something new, something more festive? He left, and Lena stood alone in the kitchen. Too simple. She shook the book she had been holding in the air, as if throwing her pain into it. An old, worn-out book. From your family, Lena. What else could anyone expect? Your parents are nobodies, and their gift matches. With those words, her mother-in-law had once thrown the book on the floor. It landed with a dull thud, a few pages tearing free from the binding. The room went silent. For a few seconds you could hear a pin drop. Then someone chuckled. Another joined. Soon, Cruel laughter filled the hall, quiet at first, then louder and sharper, cutting right through her. Lena didn't move. She stared at the torn book lying on the floor. No tears came. Inside, everything felt burned out and empty. She looked at Stas. He stood with his head down, not meeting her eyes. He hadn't defended her. He had betrayed her completely. Slowly, she knelt down and began gathering the pages. Her hands shook. In that moment, she wasn't thinking about the guests, her mother-in-law, or even her husband. She thought only of her father. How proud he had been when he gave her that book, how much love he had put into it, and how much it would hurt him to know what had been done to it. The laughter faded. The guests, satisfied with her humiliation, returned to their wine and snacks. Tamara Pavlovna, pleased with the effect, sat back in her chair like a queen who had just executed a traitor. Lena was still on her knees when a shadow appeared beside her. She looked up. It was Andrei Viktorovich. He knelt down next to her. "Allow me," he said quietly, and began helping her pick up the torn pages. The sight was so unexpected that the whole hall went silent again. The CEO of a huge company, the most important guest of the night, on his knees, gathering pages of an old book from the floor. When the last page was picked up, Andrei Viktorovich helped Lena to her feet. He gently took the book from her hands and carefully brushed the dust off, almost as if it were something sacred. "Forgive me," he said to Lena, loud enough for everyone to hear. "May I take a look?" Lena silently nodded. He opened the book, glanced at the inside cover where an autograph was written, and his face changed. Shock, excitement, and anger all appeared at once. Slowly, he lifted his eyes and looked straight at Tamara Pavlovna. His gaze was cold and sharp, like steel. "Tamara Pavlovna," he said in an icy tone. "Do you even realize what you've just done?" Sensing something was wrong, she straightened her back. "And what exactly did I do?" she asked defiantly. "I threw away some old junk that they tried to pass off as a gift." "This old junk, as you call it?" Andrei Viktorovich raised the book. "It is the first edition of a collection by Apollon Grigoriev, signed by the author himself. Fewer than 10 signed copies are known to exist in the entire world. As a collector, I've been searching for this book for 15 years. He paused, letting the silence grow heavy in the hall. Then he added, "Its auction value starts at $3 million. The room went dead silent. Somewhere, a fork dropped onto a plate. Tamara Pavlovna sat frozen, her mouth slightly open, her face pale as paper. 3 million. The number seemed to hang in the air. That's impossible," she stammered. "They are your family," Andrei Viktorovich said firmly, pointing at Lena. "Your daughter-in-law and her parents. Unlike many people here tonight, they possess not only money, but also things money cannot buy: taste, intelligence, and dignity." He turned to Lena. "Elena," he hesitated, unsure of her patronymic. "Ivanovna," she softly added. "Elena Ivanovna," he repeated and bowed deeply. "I want to sincerely apologize to you for being subjected to such a disgusting scene. And I would like to make you an offer. Please sell me this book. I will pay any price you ask. And I promise to restore it with the best masters and treasure it as the jewel it is." Lena looked at him. For the first time that evening, she felt her strength returning. This man, her husband's boss, practically a stranger, had just given back to her what others had tried to strip away: her dignity. "Thank you," she said quietly. "But I cannot sell this book. It was a gift from my father." A memory." Andrei Viktorovich nodded with respect. "I understand. Then at least allow me to pay for its restoration. I know the finest workshop in the city." "I'm a restorer myself," Lena said with a faint smile. "It's my profession." "I can restore it," Lena said softly. Andrei Viktorovich's eyes widened in surprise. "Really?" In that case, he pulled a business card from his pocket. "Call me when you have time. I have some interesting offers for you. Someone with your talent doesn't belong in a small workshop." He handed her the card. Lena took it, and for the first time in a long while, she felt something new stirring inside. Hope. Then she turned back to the table where her husband and mother-in-law were sitting. Tamara Pavlovna was pale as chalk. Her eyes darted from Lena to Andrei Viktorovich to the torn book in his hands. The realization of what she had done, destroyed a gift worth more than several years of her own income, was slowly sinking in. Stas was in shock too. He looked at his wife as if seeing her for the very first time. Not as the quiet, modest Lena he was used to, but as a woman who had just been publicly defended and valued by his all-powerful boss. Lena walked up to the table. She didn't raise her voice, but her calm words cut sharper than a whip. "Well, Tamara Pavlovna," she began. "Thank you for the party. It was very educational. I've learned a lot today." Her eyes shifted to her husband. "And I've learned a lot about you too, Stas." She picked up her purse, went to her parents, and said quietly, "Let's go home." Her mother and father rose in silence. They were still in shock, but their eyes shone with pride for their daughter. As they passed by Andrei Viktorovich's table, he stood up. "Elena Ivanovna," he said, "please allow me to drive you." "That's not necessary, thank you. We'll call a taxi," Lena replied. "I insist," he said firmly. "My driver is waiting outside." He escorted them all the way to the exit, ignoring the stunned stares of the guests and the stone-faced birthday hostess. Outside, Lena breathed in the cool night air. She felt drained, yet strangely free. It was as if a long-growing tumor poisoning her life had finally been cut open, and now the painful but cleansing process of healing could begin. Sitting in the comfortable car beside her parents, the ruined book in her hands, she thought about what it represented. The book was like her marriage, beautiful and precious at its core, but trampled on by people who couldn't recognize its true worth. And now, as a professional restorer, she had to decide, could it be repaired, or were some damages already beyond saving? The next morning, Lena woke up in her childhood room at her parents' apartment. After the driver dropped them home the night before, she hadn't been able to force herself to return to the flat where Stas was waiting. She called him and said she would stay at her parents' place. "Lena, forgive me." Stas's voice sounded pitiful over the phone. I didn't know what to do. I was in shock." "We'll talk tomorrow, Stas," she answered tiredly. "Not today." And she hung up. The next day, her phone rang nonstop with his calls and messages, but she didn't answer. She needed time. Time to process everything, to calm the pain, and to decide what to do with her life. "You did the right thing leaving," her mother told her at breakfast. "That's something you can't forgive," her father said firmly. "He's a coward. Always was. He fears his mother more than losing his wife. What kind of man is that?" Lena stayed silent. She still loved Stas, or at least the man he had been at the start of their relationship. But the man she had seen at the party yesterday, frightened, weak, willing to sacrifice her dignity just to please his mother, filled her with nothing but pity and contempt. By evening, she decided they needed to talk. Hiding wasn't a solution. She packed up and went back to their rented apartment. Stas was home. He looked terrible, unshaven, red-eyed, his shirt wrinkled. "Lena." He rushed toward her, trying to hug her, but she pulled away. "Sit down, Stas. We need to talk." They sat in the kitchen where, not long ago, they had dreamed and made plans for the future. Now the place felt cold and unfamiliar. "I'm sorry," he began. "I was wrong. I should have stood up for you. I was afraid." "I know," Lena nodded. "You're always afraid of her. But yesterday you crossed the line. You let her humiliate me. Humiliate my parents. You stood there, silent, when she threw my father's gift on the floor." "I know," he whispered, covering his face with his hands. "I acted like a coward. But I love you, Lena. I'll fix this. I'll talk to my mother. I'll make her apologize." "There's no need." Lena shook her head. "It's too late. It's not about her apology. It's about you. When it mattered most, you didn't choose me. You chose your fear, your comfort, her approval." "What are you saying?" He looked at her with frightened eyes. "I'm saying we need to live apart for a while," Lena said firmly. "I need to think. I need to know if I can ever trust you again." She stood to leave, but he grabbed her hand. "Don't go. I can't live without you." You should have thought about that before, she replied, pulling her hand free. Now I need time. She walked out, leaving him alone in their empty kitchen. On her way back to her parents' place, Lena felt something unexpected. Peace. The decision was made, and even though it hurt, Lena knew it was the right one. The first few days after the birthday party felt like a blur. She helped her mom around the house, read a little, tried to work, but her thoughts kept going back to that humiliating scene at the restaurant. She could still see her mother-in-law's face twisted with anger, and Stas's face, confused, weak, and pathetic. The pain of betrayal felt sharp, almost physical. She didn't cry. There were no tears left. Inside, it felt like an empty desert where love and trust used to live. She barely slept. At night, when her parents were asleep, she would sit in the kitchen with a cup of cold tea, replaying the last few years in her head. She remembered how she first met Stas, his sweet way of courting her, their awkward first meetings with his mother. Even back then there had been red flags, but she ignored them. Like the way Tamara Pavlovna criticized her clothes, mocked her love of old books, and constantly reminded her that she was better than Lena. And every time, Stas said the same thing. You know how mom is. That's just her personality. Don't take it seriously. And Lena didn't. She wanted to believe in their happy future so badly that she looked the other way. She excused his weakness, his inability to stand up to his mother, his endless compromises. She thought her love would be enough for both of them, that he would grow stronger with time. But she was wrong. The birthday party tore away all masks, showing the truth about everyone. Stas wouldn't leave her alone. He sent dozens of messages every day. Lena, I've realized everything. Give me one more chance. I can't live without you. He kept calling, but she didn't answer. One day, he even showed up at her parents' apartment. Her father refused to let him in. Go away, he said firmly, standing in the doorway. You've hurt her too much. Please, Ivan Petrovich, I need to talk to her, Stas begged. You already said everything with your silence at that cursed party. Her father cut him off and closed the door. Lena heard their voices from the hallway and silently thanked her father for standing strong. She truly needed time to heal, to figure out if there was even a trace of love left for this man. One evening, while sorting through the things she had brought back from their apartment, Lena found a box of old photos. There they were on their first vacation in Prague, happy in love. There they were on their wedding day, so young, so full of hope. And then a photo from the first time she met Tamara Pavlovna. Lena was smiling, but her mother-in-law was giving her that cold, judging look that she knew all too well. And Stas was standing between them with a fake smile, already trying to please both sides. Lena stared at that photo for a long time, then tore it into tiny pieces. The past had to be let go. Bridges had to be burned. Only then could she start a new life. She pulled out a business card that Andrei Viktorovich had given her. Her hand reached for the phone almost on its own. She didn't know why she was calling or what she would say. She just felt that this call was a step in the right direction. A step away from the past and toward the future. Hello, Andrei Viktorovich. This is Lena, Stanislav's wife. We met at the birthday party. She hesitated, unsure how to continue. Elena Ivanovna, his calm, friendly voice answered. I'm glad you called. I was actually planning to contact you. How are you? I'm fine, thank you, Lena said, though her voice trembled. I've heard about your situation. Stanislav took unpaid leave. He said he needed time for family issues. I see, Lena replied quietly. I'm not calling out of idle curiosity, he continued. I'd like to repeat my offer. I have a large collection of old books, many in need of restoration. I'd be happy to give you a long-term contract. And he paused. If you need temporary housing while you sort things out, the company has a studio apartment in the city center. It's available now. You could stay there as long as needed. Lena listened, and the tears she hadn't shed in all these days finally burst out. Tears of gratitude and relief. At the very moment when she thought her world had collapsed, a complete stranger was reaching out to help. Thank you, she whispered through her sobs. I don't even know what to say. Don't say anything, he replied gently. Just think about it, and remember, you're not alone. His offer felt like a lifeline. It wasn't just about work or a roof over her head. It was a chance to start fresh, to gain independence, and most importantly, to prove to herself that she was worth something without Stas or his powerful family. 2 days later, she moved into the company's apartment. It was a small but cozy studio in a new building in the city center, and to her it felt like heaven compared to her cramped childhood bedroom at her parents' place. Bright, clean, and, above all, quiet. For the first time in a long while, she could be alone with her thoughts. The first thing she did was call her mom. "Mom, I've moved." "I'm fine, don't worry," Lena said. "Where did you move, honey?" her mother, Anna Sergeyevna, asked nervously. "You didn't go back to him, did you?" "No," Lena answered firmly. "I found a job and a temporary place to stay." She didn't give more details, knowing her parents would only worry more. The next week, Lena threw herself into her work. Andrei Viktorovich sent her several rare books from his collection, and she worked on them with passion. The job kept her mind busy and gave her back her sense of worth. She wasn't just Stas's wife anymore. She was Elena Ivanovna, a real specialist, a master of her craft. She had also brought with her the book that was ruined at the birthday party. Every evening, after finishing her main work, she sat down to restore it. It became her personal ritual. Piece by piece, as she glued the torn pages and repaired the broken cover, it felt like she was also putting her own shattered life back together. She promised herself that once it was finished, she would return the book to her father. It was his treasure, after all. Stas didn't call anymore. He must have realized it was useless. But one evening, when Lena was walking home from work, she saw him standing outside her new building. He looked thinner, tired, almost worn out. "How did you find me?" she asked instead of greeting him. "I called your parents. Your father said you moved. I had to see you." He held out a bouquet of her favorite white freesias. Lena didn't take them. "Why are you here, Stas?" "I wanted to tell you that I understand now. I was wrong. I was blind. I spoke with my mother. We had a huge fight. She still insists that everything is your fault. But I don't care what she thinks anymore." He looked at her with such hope, such desperation, that Lena's heart tightened. "I quit my job," he suddenly said. "What?" She couldn't believe her ears. "I couldn't keep working there." Andrei Viktorovich never said anything, but I saw the way he looked at me, with disgust. I couldn't stand it. So I left. "And now what?" Lena asked quietly. "I don't know. I'll look for another job. But that doesn't matter. What matters is that I love you, and I want us back. Lena, let's start over. I promise things will be different. I'll never let my mother interfere again." He spoke with raw honesty, almost begging. For a moment, Lena almost believed him. For a moment, she almost wanted to fall into his arms and erase the past like it was just a bad dream. But then she remembered his face at the birthday party, his silence, his betrayal. And she knew there was no way back. "I'm sorry, Stas," she whispered. "But I can't. Something broke forever. I don't trust you anymore." She walked past him and entered the building without looking back. She heard him call her name, but she didn't stop. Inside the elevator, she looked at her reflection in the mirror. Staring back wasn't the naive girl who had married a handsome, ambitious manager 3 years ago. It was a strong, confident woman who finally knew her worth. And her worth was far greater than a bouquet of white freesias and some late apologies. After that night, Stas seemed to disappear from her life. No more calls, no messages, no attempts to find her. Lena felt relieved. At last, she could breathe freely, without the weight of the past. Work completely absorbed her. Andrei Viktorovich, now fully confident in her skills, trusted her with the rarest and most valuable books in his collection. He paid generously, and for the first time in years, Lena felt financially secure. She could support herself and even help her parents. At first, they refused her money, but when they saw her determination, they accepted. One day, Andrei Viktorovich invited her to dinner. Not as a boss with his employee, he clarified over the phone, but as a friend. Just to chat about books and maybe other things too. Lena agreed. She was curious to know him better. That evening, in a quiet Italian restaurant, they talked about everything: rare editions, modern literature, travels, life itself. She discovered that Andre wasn't just a successful businessman. He was also thoughtful, well-read, and had a sharp sense of humor. "You know, Elena," he said as they sipped coffee, "I admire your strength. Not every woman could have stood tall after what you went through." "I just defended my dignity," Lena shrugged. "That's exactly what strength is," he nodded. "The ability to protect what matters most to you." Speaking of which, he paused. "I heard Stas still hasn't found a job." "I didn't know," Lena admitted. "We don't talk anymore. He came to me last week," Andre sighed. "Asked me to take him back. He said he had realized everything, that he was ready to start over." "And what did you tell him?" Lena's heart skipped a beat. "I refused," Andre answered. Then, noticing her tense look, he quickly added, "Not because of you, but because I don't trust people who betray their loved ones. A man who couldn't protect his own wife won't be able to protect a company's interests either." That word, protect, echoed in her head. It reminded her of her mother-in-law's lectures. Lena looked down at her hands, stained with glue and paint. These were the hands that restored old books, that could create almost miracles. But in Tamara Pavlovna's world, they meant nothing. There, what mattered was having the latest manicure design, not the ability to tell fine paper from common pulp. The unease that always lived deep inside her whenever it came to her husband's family began to grow. The anniversary, which should have been just a celebration, now felt like an exam. An exam she felt doomed to fail. For 2 days, Lena couldn't stop worrying about the gift. She scrolled through dozens of jewelry store websites, but even the simplest gold earrings started at 30,000. That was far too much for their budget. Stas noticed how upset she was and tried to comfort her. "Come on, Lena, don't stress so much. We'll use the credit card and pay it off later somehow. The main thing is that mom's happy." But Lena didn't want to go into debt just to please her mother-in-law's whims. To her, it felt wrong, humiliating. She had always lived within her means, and the thought of buying something on credit just to show off didn't sit right with her. On Saturday, she went to visit her parents. Their small 2-bedroom apartment in the old district always felt like a safe haven. It smelled of books, freshly brewed tea, and calmness. "Something's bothering you, my dear?" her mother, Anna Sergeyevna, asked the moment Lena walked in. She always knew her daughter's mood from just a glance. Lena sat down on the old velvet sofa and told them everything about the anniversary, the status, gift, Stas's pressure, and her fear of disappointing his mother. "Tamara's always been like that," sighed her father, Ivan Petrovich, putting down his newspaper. "Even back when Stas's father was alive, she loved everything to look important. But it's all nonsense, Lena. What really matters is the attention, not the price of the gift." "I know that, Dad," Lena said quietly. He stayed silent for a moment, then added, "And by the way, I already talked to Tamara Pavlovna."
"What?
"Why?" Lena was shocked. "I called her," he explained calmly, "and offered to buy back all that fancy junk people gave her for her birthday. At a fair price, of course." He said the money would go to a charity fund that helps women who suffered from domestic violence. And what did she say? Lena couldn't help but smile. At first, she yelled that I was meddling in her business. But when I hinted that I could tell some of her fancy friends in government about how she behaved at her birthday party and how that might damage their reputations, she agreed. "So now your mother-in-law is the main sponsor of our fund." They both laughed. For the first time in a long while, Lena laughed freely and sincerely. A few months later, after finishing the restoration of the silver mists, Lena went to visit her parents. She carefully pulled the renewed book out of its box. The binding had been repaired, the pages cleaned and placed back in order. The book looked almost new. "Here, Dad," she said, handing it to him. "I'm giving you back your treasure." Her father took the book, his hands trembling slightly. "You saved it," he whispered, running his finger across the golden embossing. "Just like you saved yourself." "Thank you for believing in me," Lena said, hugging both her parents. That evening, just as she was about to leave, the home phone rang. Her mother picked it up. Yes, Lena's here. She looked at her daughter in surprise. All right, I'll tell her. Who was it? Lena asked. Tamara Pavlovna, her mother replied. She says it's very important. She wants to speak with you. Lena hesitated, then took the phone. I'm listening. Lena. Her mother-in-law's voice was strangely quiet, almost uncertain. I wanted to ask for forgiveness. Lena stayed silent, unable to believe what she was hearing. I know. I was terrible. I was wrong. Please forgive me if you can. Why are you calling me, Tamara Pavlovna? Lena asked coldly. It's Stas. He's really bad. He doesn't eat, doesn't sleep, doesn't talk to anyone. He's lost everything. And he blames me. He says I destroyed his life. Her voice was filled with despair. He loves you, Lena. He still loves you. Maybe you could talk to him? He won't listen to anyone else. I'll think about it, Lena answered shortly. Thank you, her mother-in-law whispered. Thank you, Lenachka. When the call ended, Lena stood at the window for a long time. She felt no satisfaction, only sadness. Sadness for broken lives, lost love, and mistakes that could never be undone. She didn't know if she would call Stas. Probably not. Their story was over. But her mother-in-law's remorse, whatever the reason, was the final stroke in this chapter of her life. Justice, even if it came late, didn't happen in a courtroom or through public shame. It came from someone finally admitting their guilt. A week passed and Lena never called Stas. Just the thought of him gave her a dull, aching pain, like an old wound that hurts when the weather changes. She knew their paths had split forever. Their marriage was like a rare book that had been ruined beyond repair. No restoration could ever bring it back. One day, while working in her new bright studio, rented with the help of Andrei Viktorovich, she was carefully restoring an old atlas when there was a knock on the door. Come in, she called, not looking up. The door opened, and Stas walked in. He looked even thinner than before, wearing just a sweater and jeans. The confident manager he used to be was gone. Hi, he said softly. Lena lifted her head. Her heart didn't race, not even for a second. She looked at him calmly, almost indifferently. What are you doing here? How did you find me? I asked Andrei Viktorovich, he said, stepping forward. I know I don't have the right, but I had to. I had to see you one last time. One last time? Lena asked. I'm leaving tomorrow. Going north. I got a job as an engineer in an oil company, starting over from scratch. He placed a thick envelope on her desk. What's this? She frowned. Money. Not everything, but what I could gather. I sold my car, my watch, everything valuable. It's 300,000. My first payment. I'll send more every month until I pay back every cent. Pay back to who? She asked. To the people who donated for your surgery, he said. Andrei Viktorovich gave me the list. I'll write to each of them, apologize, and return the money. It's the only way I can try to make things right. For the first time in a long while, Lena felt a sting of pity. Stas looked broken, but in his eyes there was a determination she had never seen in him before. And your mother? She asked. He gave a bitter smile. She sold her mink coat and her iPhone to cover my first month's rent. She's living alone now. I told her I'd be back in a year. Maybe he met Lena's eyes. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I know that's impossible. I just want you to know that what I did was the biggest mistake of my life. I lost the only person who truly loved me because of my own cowardice and stupidity, and I'll regret it forever. He turned to leave. Stas, Lena called softly. He stopped. I wish you luck, she said quietly. He nodded without turning back and walked out. Lena stayed alone in her sunlit studio. She stared at the envelope of money on her desk. She knew she wouldn't keep it. She would give it to the very charity fund Andrei Viktorovich had once told her about. The ending finally came. Not like in the movies, with loud scenes or dramatic reunions. It was quiet, sad, and very real. Tamara Pavlovna was punished by losing her status and, worse for her, losing the control she once had over her son. Stas was punished by losing everything he had and having to rebuild his life from zero, far away from the comfort he was used to. Justice had been served, but somehow it still felt bittersweet. A year passed, and Lena's life had completely changed. Her small restoration workshop became well known among collectors and antique lovers. With the help and support of Andrei Viktorovich, who had become her close friend, orders came in one after another. She managed to buy a small but cozy apartment in a nice neighborhood near the park and moved her parents there. Now they lived together, and Lena no longer worried about them struggling in their old apartment. She worked hard but also found time for herself. She started yoga, began learning Italian, and read a lot. The pain had faded, leaving only a thin scar, something that didn't hurt anymore but reminded her of the past from time to time. She had grown stronger, independent, and confident in herself. The memory of that terrible birthday party rarely came back. And when she read articles about charity, she thought about how even the worst events could sometimes lead to something good. The Women's Support Fund, backed by Andrei Viktorovich with money from those status gifts, had helped dozens of women start new lives. She never heard from Stas again. He had kept his word and stayed away. Sometimes she wondered if he really managed to start over up north, if he had changed. But those thoughts never stayed long. That chapter of her life was finished and closed. One spring day, Lena was sitting in a cafe with her friend when the friend smiled slyly and said, "Do you know who's in town today?" "Who?" Lena asked absent-mindedly, stirring her latte. "Your ex Stas. I saw him an hour ago." Lena froze. "He's back. Looks like it. And honestly, he doesn't look bad. More mature. Maybe even stronger." The whole day Lena thought about it. Why had he returned? Was he going to look for her again? But inside, she felt no fear, only a light curiosity. That evening, walking home through the park, she saw him. He was sitting on their old bench by the pond, where they used to walk in the early days of their love. He noticed her and stood up. For a moment, they just looked at each other. He really had changed. His eyes were steadier, and he carried himself with more confidence. "Hi," he said. "Hi," she answered. "Welcome back." "I didn't plan on looking for you," he said quietly. "I just came back for a couple of days to pick up some documents, and I stopped by here out of habit. How are you?" "I'm fine. Working. I've paid back almost all the money. Just a little left." "I know," she nodded. "Andrei Viktorovich told me. And you? You look happy." "I am happy," Lena answered simply. They fell silent. The only sound was the ducks quacking in the pond. "I wanted to say," he started, and Lena saw the same pain in his eyes that she had seen the last time they met. "I know nothing can be fixed between us, but that birthday party, it was the biggest lesson of my life. I finally understood what real dignity means. It's not about money or status. It's about being honest with yourself and with others." He reached out his hand. "I can be your friend, Lena. Just a friend." Lena looked at his hand, then into his eyes. She no longer saw her ex-husband or a spoiled mama's boy, just a man who had made mistakes and was trying to make things right. She wasn't sure if they could ever be friends, but she knew one thing. She no longer hated him. She placed her hand in his. "I don't know, Stas," she said honestly. "Time will tell." He gave a faint smile and let go. "Thank you even for this." Then he turned and walked down the park path, without looking back. Lena stayed by the pond, watching him leave. She knew there was no more place for him in her life, but she was grateful for that final conversation. It closed the chapter for good. She was truly free now. Pulling out her phone, she dialed a number. "Hi," she said when he picked up. "It's Lena. I've been thinking, is your dinner invitation still open?" Life went on, and it was beautiful. So, what would you do if you were Lena? Would you give Stas a second chance? Or would you also choose to start fresh? Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss more powerful stories. See you soon. He carefully unwrapped it on the coffee table. In front of Lena lay a book, small, with a simple dark green cover and golden letters pressed into it. Silver Mists. Apollon Grigoriev. Lena gasped when she recognized the almost forgotten poet of the Silver Age. Where did you get this? It's a long story, her father smiled. Back in my youth, I was into collecting. I traded a full set of Lermontov's works for this one with an old bookseller. It's a first edition, printed in 1913. Only 500 copies were ever made. And the most important part, he carefully opened the first page. On the yellowed paper, faded ink spelled out, "To dear Ladaka, in memory of a magical evening. Yours, A. Grigoriev." This is his autograph, whispered Lena. Real, her father nodded. I had it checked by experts. This book is extremely rare. For collectors, it's priceless. Lena stared at it, breathless. This wasn't just about prestige, it was deeper. A gift with meaning, with history, with a soul. Dad, I can't take this. It's your treasure. My greatest treasure is you, he said, covering her hand with his. Books should live. They should be seen and valued. I'm sure Tamara will love it. It's refined, intelligent. It shows that our family has taste, not just money. That evening, Lena showed the book to Stas. He turned it in his hands, flipped through a few pages. Looks old, he said doubtfully. And this poet? Never even heard of him. My mom definitely hasn't. Lena, she won't get it. Stas, it's a first edition, with his autograph. Lena explained passionately. It's an incredible rarity. Collectors would pay a fortune for it. Collectors, he smirked. But my mom isn't a collector. She likes things that shine and look expensive. She'll think we just gave her some old book from your parents' shelf. But that's not true. Lena felt her throat tighten with hurt. What difference does it make if she thinks that? He shrugged, setting the book on the table. And your boss, Andrei Viktorovich, won't get it either. He'll see the son of his up-and-coming manager giving away some dusty book, while others bring mink coats. What's he going to think about me? He'll think you have a wife with good taste, Lena said firmly. I've decided, Stas. We're giving this book. It's a worthy gift, and I don't want to discuss it anymore. She picked up the book and carried it to the bedroom, gently placing it in the dresser. Inside her, two feelings clashed hard. Lena felt two things fighting inside her, pride for her choice and growing worry. She saw how her husband's face had darkened. He didn't argue anymore, but his silence was louder than words. He was unhappy, maybe even scared, and that scared her too. That night Lena couldn't fall asleep. She kept remembering their first dates, when Stas used to quote poems, talk about big ideas, admire her love for books. Where had that man gone? Had fear of his mother and his boss become stronger than his love and respect for her? A week before the birthday, life at home became almost unbearable. Stas walked around moody and irritated. He never mentioned the gift again, but his silent disapproval hung in the air like a storm cloud. He stopped hugging Lena before leaving for work, and in the evenings he buried himself in his laptop, saying he had urgent reports to finish. Lena knew it wasn't just work. He was angry at her stubbornness. She tried to make peace, cooked his favorite meals, acted extra caring, but hit a wall of coldness every time. Are you okay? She asked one evening, when he ate in silence without looking up. I'm fine, he muttered. Just tired. The project is draining me. But Lena knew he was lying. The problem wasn't the project. It was her. It was the book. It was his fear. She felt guilty, yet angry at herself for feeling that way. Why should she apologize for not wanting to humiliate herself by buying a gift they couldn't afford, just to please her mother-in-law? On Wednesday, the phone rang. It was Tamara Pavlovna. Hello, Lena, dear, she said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness that always made Lena uneasy. I was thinking, since money is tight for you right now, maybe you don't need to buy me a gift. Just come and give your congratulations. Your presence will be a gift in itself. Lena was stunned by such generosity. Oh, what are you saying, Tamara Pavlovna? We already bought a gift, she quickly replied. There was surprise and thinly hidden curiosity in her mother-in-law's voice. Oh, really? And what is it, if it's not a secret? It's a surprise, Lena dodged. Oh, these surprises, sighed Tamara. I hope it's something worthy. Otherwise, it could be awkward in front of the guests. Important people are coming, you know. Even Stasik's boss, Andrei Viktorovich. For your husband's career, it's very important we don't embarrass ourselves. Lena felt her cheeks burn. Don't embarrass ourselves. That was a direct jab at her family, at her background. We'll do our best, she answered stiffly. That's my clever girl, Tamara cooed. I always knew you were sensible. Then, as if nothing had happened, she added, by the way, I saw a beautiful dress in a boutique yesterday. It would look wonderful on you. Lena's mother-in-law offered. I can stop by and show you. There's a perfect dress. No need, thank you. I've already chosen one, Lena said firmly. Well, if you're sure, her mother-in-law's voice carried clear disappointment. Then she added sharply, just don't wear that gray one of yours. It makes you look old. After the call, Lena sat still for a long time, staring at nothing. Everything suddenly made sense. It wasn't really Stas who was afraid. It was Tamara Pavlovna. She was terrified that her simple daughter-in-law and poor in-laws would embarrass her in front of her high-status guests. And she had skillfully passed that fear to her son, who carried it into their marriage like a loyal dog. Lena opened a drawer and took out the book, Silver Mists. She ran her hand over the smooth cover. No, she wasn't going to back down. This gift wasn't just a book. It was a symbol of her world, her values, her family. And she wasn't going to let anyone trample on that just to please shallow appearances. She knew she had to present it properly. Simply handing over the book in a gift bag wouldn't be enough. The meaning of the gift had to be highlighted. So she went into her little workshop and worked for hours, creating a special box for it. Dark polished wood, lined inside with deep burgundy velvet, and a small brass plate with an engraving in elegant script. To Tamara Pavlovna, on your birthday, with deepest respect. When Stas saw the box, he whistled. Wow, that looks impressive. What's inside? The gift, Lena replied simply, without details. He nodded, and for the first time in days, he seemed a little calmer. The fancy packaging had reassured him. He didn't realize that the box was just the beginning. The real message was still to come. Lena had decided. If they were so afraid her family would bring shame, then she would show them what real dignity looked like. She called her father. Dad, I need your help. Can you write a short speech to go with the gift? Something that explains the story of the book and its true value. Of course, honey, he said happily. That's a wonderful idea. People should understand what they're holding in their hands. The day before the birthday, her father sent the text. Short, elegant, beautifully written. Lena typed it out on thick, designer paper and slipped it into an envelope. Now everything was ready. She felt a strange, almost feverish calm, as if she were an actress stepping onto the stage for the most important performance of her life. The outcome of this play was still unknown, but Lena knew one thing. She would play her part without a single false note. The day of the anniversary started with quiet tension. Stas was on edge from the moment he woke up. He changed his shirt 3 times, spent forever picking a tie, and kept checking the clock. Lena, on the other hand, was calm on purpose. She took her time with a bath, did light makeup, and slipped into her simple gray dress. The fabric was fine cashmere, well cut, and it fit her figure perfectly. But to Tamara Pavlovna, it would always be just that dull gray dress, plain and cheap. You're really going to wear that? Stas asked when he saw her. His voice carried pure desperation. Yes, Lena answered calmly. I like it. Len, please. I told you, my mom will freak out. Your mom is always upset about something, Lena shrugged. I can't live my life worrying about her moods. Stas opened his mouth to argue, but gave up. He just waved his hand helplessly. The gift box, heavy, made of dark wood, lay waiting in the hallway. Stas kept picking it up, weighing it in his hands, trying to guess what was inside. Are you sure this is a good idea? He asked one last time as they were leaving. I'm sure it's the right thing, Lena said, locking eyes with him. Her steady gaze shut down any more protests. The restaurant Versailles was overflowing with flowers and the sparkle of crystal chandeliers. Guests in expensive outfits strolled around with champagne glasses, exchanging pleasantries. The air was thick with the scent of luxury perfumes and the subtle smell of money. Lena felt out of place, like a sparrow lost in a courtyard full of peacocks. At the center of it all was Tamara Pavlovna, glowing in a golden gown, floating from group to group, receiving congratulations with her queen-like smile. Lenachka, Stasik, finally, she exclaimed when she noticed them. I was starting to worry. Her eyes flicked over Lena in a quick evaluation. A shadow of disappointment crossed her lips, but she quickly masked it with a gracious smile. Come in, dears. Andrei Viktorovich is already here. Stasik, go greet your boss. Don't be shy. Stas gave Lena an apologetic look before hurrying off to obey. Lena was left alone. She scanned the room and spotted her parents standing quietly to the side. They looked just as out of place as she felt, her father in his one decent suit, her mother in her special occasions dress. Hi, Lena said, hugging them. How are you holding up? We're managing, her father smiled. Feels like a real ball in the devil's palace. Lena laughed. With her parents, everything always felt lighter. The evening felt endless. There were toasts full of fake praise, performances by hired artists, and expensive but tasteless food. Lena sat at the table between a politician and his wife, who was covered in diamonds, and she felt completely invisible. She kept watching Stas. He stayed close to his boss, laughing at his jokes and pouring him cognac. He was trying so hard to fit into a world that clearly wasn't his, and Lena almost felt sorry for him. Finally, the host announced the gift-giving ceremony. It looked more like a competition of vanity. Guests came up one by one, gave speeches full of flattery, and handed over giant boxes and envelopes. A mink shawl, an iPhone, a certificate for spa treatments in Switzerland, even a trip to Bali. Tamara Pavlovna accepted everything with a gracious smile, but her eyes stayed cold. And now a word from the family of the birthday lady's son, Stanislav, and his lovely wife, Lena, the host called. Lena's heart started pounding. She picked up the heavy wooden box and walked with Stas toward her mother-in-law. Her parents stayed at the table, but Lena could feel their quiet support. Dear Tamara Pavlovna, she began, trying to keep her voice steady. My parents and I thought long and hard about what gift to give you on this special day. We wanted it to be not only valuable, but meaningful, something that speaks about timeless values, not just passing trends. She opened the box and took out a book. A ripple of laughter spread through the hall. Someone even snorted. Tamara Pavlovna's face turned to stone. A book? She asked in a cold voice. Yes, Lena nodded, but not just any book. Please allow me to read the letter that goes with it, written by my father. She took out an envelope and began to read. Her voice was clear and steady. She spoke about the poet Apollon Grigoriev, about the rarity of the first edition, the unique autograph, and how the book was not just an object but a piece of history, a true cultural treasure. The hall grew quiet. People listened with interest. Even the politician next to her stopped chewing and turned to look. Lena noticed her husband's boss leaning forward, his eyes suddenly filled with genuine curiosity. When she finished, Lena held out the book. Happy birthday, Tamara Pavlovna. For a few seconds, Tamara Pavlovna just stared at it with an expression of disgust, as if she'd been offered something rotten. She didn't take the book. Instead, she poked it with her finger like it was dirty. That's it, she hissed so only Stas and Lena could hear. This dusty trash is the best your poor family could come up with. Lena stayed silent, gripping the book tightly. She had expected this. Stas went pale beside her and hunched his shoulders. Mom, he whispered, but Tamara Pavlovna cut him off. Enough, she snapped. Then she grabbed the microphone from the stunned host and turned to the hall. Her voice rang with anger. Dear guests, you know how much I value your attention. But sometimes, she paused, giving Lena a look full of contempt. Sometimes gifts can be inappropriate. Not just inappropriate, they can be insulting. She snatched the book from Lena's hands and held it up. What is this garbage? The room froze. No one laughed this time. Even the most arrogant guests shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Tamara Pavlovna's words hung heavy in the air. Lena lowered her eyes, clutching her trembling hands together. She was ready for humiliation, but before she could move, a deep voice cut through the silence. "I'll take it," said Andrei Viktorovich, Stas's boss, rising from his seat. He walked toward the stage with calm, steady steps. His eyes were fixed on the book. "Tamara Pavlovna," he said politely, "may I?" For the first time that evening, Tamara Pavlovna seemed unsure of herself. She blinked, then shoved the book at him. Andrei Viktorovich carefully turned it in his hands, studying the cover like a priceless treasure. Then he looked at Lena. "You said it's an original first edition, signed by Grigoriev himself?" "Yes," Lena replied quietly, her voice steady despite the lump in her throat. He nodded slowly, then faced the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is no garbage. This is cultural heritage. Do you have any idea how rare this is? This book belongs in a museum. It's worth more than all the jewelry and trips to Bali combined." A wave of whispers spread across the hall. The same guests who had laughed earlier now leaned forward with wide eyes. Andrei Viktorovich smiled warmly at Lena. "You have given a priceless gift. A gift of knowledge, art, and history. Something that will outlive all of us." Tamara Pavlovna's face went pale. She tried to smile, but it looked more like a grimace. Her attempt to humiliate Lena had backfired in front of everyone. Stas finally straightened his shoulders and spoke, his voice trembling but firm. "Yes, Mom. For once, try to see beyond shiny boxes and envelopes. Lena and my in-laws gave you something with meaning. You should be grateful." The hall erupted in applause. Not polite clapping, but genuine, heartfelt applause. Lena felt her cheeks grow warm, but this time it wasn't from shame, it was from pride. Tamara Pavlovna sat down, defeated, while Andrei Viktorovich carefully closed the book and returned it to Lena. "Keep it safe," he told her. "One day, people will understand its true value. You've reminded us all tonight what a real gift should be." Lena smiled, finally feeling seen, not just as the wife of Stas, but as someone with her own voice, her own strength. And in that moment, she knew her place in this world would no longer be invisible.